guys, it's Alexandra with New Mexico Historic Sites, and I would like to welcome you back to the town of Mesilla here in southern New Mexico. Today I am standing in front of the Basilica of San Albino, and as you can see, I am wearing my mask. My guests today, as well as myself, we will be practicing social distancing so that we can all stay safe. Our story today is of the bells of San Albino, and it might not be long until we hear those bells ring for ourselves.
Hello, my name is George Gallegos. This is my son Noah. We are from the Gallegos clan here in Mesilla. My grandfather George was the bell ringer for over 60 years. His grandfather Manuel Valles was the bell ringer here in Mesilla at the San Albino Church for over 60 years as well. And his name is actually here on the plaque in front of the church.
My name is LeeAnna Guillardoni. I'm George's great-granddaughter, and Manuel Valles' 3 times great-granddaughter. I was raised here in Mesilla by my great-grandfather George and my grandmother Esther.
You've told us that you're kind of the family historian. How did you come about being the family historian?
Well, I picked it up. There's a lot of other family members who are very interested in our family history. But after my great-grandfather and great-grandmother passed, George and Esther, I guess I kind of took on that role to kind of heal myself from losing them. I called them my mom and dad. So I just kind of dove in and just tried to put all the puzzle pieces together and honor them in that sense that I want to carry on this story for them as well, for the rest of our family and generations to come to hold and value as well. Manuel Valles, like I said, he was my 3 times great-grandfather. He was not the first bell ringer, but he was the second bell ringer. The church was built here in about the 1850s, and the first bell ringer was an African-American man by the name of Juan Baptista. As far as I know, and I've read, he passed away and taught my grandfather Manuel Valles to ring the bells, and he carried on that tradition for about 60 years. So he was the second bell ringer, but carried on that tradition throughout the reconstruction of the church as well, and partook in just the community here and stories of the casting of the bells. He also was a carpenter. He did some of the carpentry work here in the church, and actually family members have received benches that he made and other carpentry work, I think, that is on the altar of the church. And he would make the coffins for the dead here as well. But that was who he was. My grandfather Manuel Valles was just very taken with the bells as a child, and there's a story that he said, I'm going to ring those bells one day. So I think he made it a thing for him to learn that from the first bell ringer, and it did come true. He was the bell ringer, and he was very proud to be that. So I think it was a self-driven thing. He just set forth that effort and did it.
I was born in California, but my parents are from here in Mesilla. Danny Gallegos and Lillian Fritz, they brought us back to Mesilla in 1978, and my grandfather started to teach me to ring the bells when I was about 9 years old. My grandfather was the primary bell ringer for, a long time, but as he got older, he got older, and so he was physically unable to ring the bells, and so I wound up ringing the bells in his stead. And between my son Noah and I, we've been doing it ever since.
Noah, when was the first time you rang the bells?
When I was 1, probably. My dad held me up and he just helped me ring the bells. We still have a picture somewhere of it.
Yeah.
Have you ever rung the bells yourself?
As a female, it wasn't part of the tradition for the females to ring the bells at the time, and it was just the culture at that time as well. I did get to ring. I would watch my grandfather George ring the bells often. I would attend church with them and sing in the choir with my grandmother. So while I didn't get to learn the full ringing of the bells, he would let me ring the hammer bell at the end as just like a little fun token for me to do with him. But I remember watching him thinking he was just the most amazing guy, and just very faithful to church and very faithful to God, and very proud of his family history. And he would stop anyone on the street here and tell them the whole story, and I kind of tend to do that same thing. I think that's how we met. So no, I mean, my perspective was more just watching him on a daily basis and doing that for the church.
That is absolutely true. That's exactly how we met.
Yeah, that is. It is exactly how we met. And yes, I will. There's even if I see people, around here kind of asking questions, I'm like, so, I love to tell the story. I love for it to live on. And more so, it's just the sense of pride that I have for the history of Mesilla, the history of the community, and my family as well. So.
The bells of Mesilla, they're proclamations, they're notifications. They'll let you know if there's a wedding, they'll let you know if there's a funeral, they'll let you know if there's a mass. And so the bells are there to let you know what time of the day it is. They're there to let you know rites of passage. And so they're a story that each story is a little bit different depending on the narrative of that day. But on any given day, you're going to hear those bells ring, and it's usually for mass. When you ring them, you got to be able to feel it. You got to be able to know what it sounds like. It has to sound close to how my grandfather rang them.
It's really something else. There's no words to really describe it. You go in, and it's this giant musical instrument that just, you have to use your soul instead of your mind to play. And you can just feel the generations of work and culture behind the bells. And so when you go in there and you start ringing them, it's unlike anything else.
It's almost kind of like a trance in a way. You kind of fall into a lull where you just listen and you feel the pounding of the bells and the swing of the bells and the volume of the bells. And it's really something for me personally that I've been really privileged to be a part of.
I was here a little early, and of course I heard the 9 o'clock chimes, and then that were the on-the-hour chimes, and then the 9 o'clock chimes. So I know some of them is pre-recorded. So what exactly do you guys, when would you guys come down here and actually physically ring the bells?
There's a difference between the bells of San Albino and the clarion bells. And the clarion bells are electronic bells, and they were installed, in the mid-2000s, I want to say. And they're there just for, they're there to tell the time mostly. Like we just heard now, that's the half hour. And so it's just an addition to this, the sounds of the bells. It's not the bells. But it is a kind of a timer, so you kind of know what time of the day it is. We ring the bells for mass mostly.
For mass, for weddings,
yeah,
or funerals.
Funerals, yeah, yeah. Every funeral that's here, usually I'm here or my son is here, and support.
Did you ring it when your grandfather passed?
I rang them when my grandfather passed. Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest days of my life personally, just because he was such a formidable figure in my life. But my grandfather, George, he was a pretty pragmatic kind of guy. He had a great sense of humor, and he would tell me something like, "No llores, mijo," which means in Spanish, no crying. And so it was more like, it's a wonderful life, and enjoying it while you have it. But don't have any regrets.
I mean, I think of, watching my grandpa just with complete awe as a child to ring those bells, and it makes me feel like he's still here with me, and he is still here in the town of Mesilla, in spirit. I feel more so that being here and hearing those bells, it's a sense of being with your ancestors, being very deeply rooted in this area, and just a sense of pride and love and history just flows through my body when I do hear those bells. Albert Fountain had written a poem about my grandfather, Manuel Valles. And while it was written in Spanish, I do have the English translation and I'd love to share it with you. Bear with me, it's in my grandmother's handwriting. But it says, "Oh, bells of old Mesilla, this ancient one adores you. With tears on my cheeks from this heart of mine that cries. Why do you cry, old man? Why do you cry? They ask me with much love and happiness, don't you hear us ring? Only when your hand guides us does this valley of your Mesilla worship the omnipotent. Don't be sad, little old man, that God has made you the guardian that rings the bells for the souls that depart." And the poem was dedicated to my 3 times great-grandfather, Don Manuel Valles, by Albert Fountain Sr.
The bells of San Albino have been ringing since their casting in the late 1800s. A couple of years ago, Eric was kind enough to actually take me up into the bell towers to get to see the bells. And you can see on the side of the bells that the names of their padrinos, their godparents, who paid for the bells casting, are carved into the side of the bells. And I would like to thank Eric and Noah and LeeAnna for joining us today. And until our next adventure, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.